Let's see here. And we are live. Hello, everybody. This is Brian Bertram, and thanks for kind of checking us out today. I wanted to kind of introduce you to one of my good clients and a good friend of mine. His name is Pete Bernard, and Pete's with us today. Him and his lovely wife, Karen, have just gone through not only getting their house on the market, but getting it sold. And what's really interesting is that the house that they're currently own right now is that it closes tomorrow. And so what I want to do is not only introduce you to Pete and listen to his story and I guess the work that Karen and he had to go through, but also just what it meant to him and get a better idea in terms of just what it takes to get your house prepared for market, and not only that, but kind of maximizing his return on investment. So I'd like to introduce you to Pete. Hey, Pete, say hi.
Hey, everybody.
So tomorrow's the big day.
Yeah, tomorrow we officially take possession of our house, and our current house is closing tomorrow as well. So there's been a whirlwind going into everything for sure.
I know. So it's it always comes up really quick, and you guys, from my perspective, you chose to do this at a pretty exaggerated pace, right? A lot of people do it over, 3-4 months. What you guys, I think from beginning to end in terms of getting us on the market, which is always interesting in my point, when you kind of made the decision, it seemed like you gave yourself a pretty tight time frame. So I tell a lot of my clients to try to take, 3 months to kind of get their house ready for sale. But what I think you guys did it like between saying go time and let's make it happen. What was it?
It was probably like 5 weeks.
I was going to say 30 days, but I guess.
Actually, well, 4 or 5 weeks, but I think 5 weeks is generous, but I think we were closer on the 4-week side. Yeah,
right.
For sure.
So maybe, and certainly there's a process, and a lot of people obviously hear me preach incessantly about the process of getting your house on the market, but you lived it. It's one thing for me to say it, and I kind of got to watch and help just a little bit, but maybe take people through. Maybe the first step is that let's just start right at the very beginning. Like, let's think of other people that may be in your shoes right now. What kind of drove you to kind of make the decision to put this home on the market in the first place?
I think, we came to this point where we really were outgrowing where we were. And just with timing and everything for our mortgage getting ready for its renewal. And we decided that—
and that's a big one, right? Like the mortgage is coming up. I mean, because once you lock in, right?
Right. So we were thinking about all the different things, and we came to the conclusion that we're going to put the house on the market, and that wasn't easy because our kids were born here, and it's a beautiful home. So, the next owner's in good shape. Everything is tip top. So from the time that we put everything together, it was like 4 weeks of basically, we first had to begin with the decluttering.
Right.
So there was a lot of just storage issues in the house. We had stuff everywhere. So we hired a professional declutterer to come in.
Right. Yeah, I brought in a good pro to help you get there, and you guys jumped on board. Because I know, like, part of it's the emotional, like, what do you bring to the next house, right? Or what's important to you, right? And where do you even start? I know at the beginning stages, that was almost a detriment. You say, maybe we better stay here because we just have, it's such a huge issue to try to figure out what to move and what to put away, right?
Yeah, so when you hire a professional organization firm or people that do decluttering, it's not personal for them. It's everything gets labeled, it gets categorized, and it either goes into storage if you want, or it can get tossed or donated, or it's coming with you to your next place. So so we took a lot of stuff and we sorted it into a different area, and that really helped in the first stage to get everything decluttered, because when people are coming to see a home, they want to see the home they're going to be in. They don't want to see your stuff.
Oh, for sure. Depersonalizing is a huge thing, right? And if I kind of take people through a little bit, here's the kind of the process on the bottom, declutter, depersonalize, right? Like part of it's to see the house. I mean, we spend all this money in putting the house up. I mean, part of it's just, and I get it, you guys lived in that house for what? I think you were there when you first bought, 8-9 years?
It's been coming up on 8 years, in the spring.
Right. And your kids I'm not sure I guess they were, your kids weren't even born then. Didn't have any kids.
We didn't have any kids when we first came. So yeah, we thought it was just going to be her and I for quite a while. And then, next thing you know, we had kids. And so offices, things that were designated for offices end up becoming bedrooms. And we didn't really have, okay. I mean, space worked well, just to get rid of all the show really well. I mean, just even to do a deep cleaning, you need to have that kind of decluttering done. So don't put it on yourself. I would recommend that you get somebody who's professional at that, because they're not going to take forever. It's just business for them. They're coming in, they're assessing, they're organizing, and you don't want to hold.
So let's take it to that. So how long they were only? I know the service isn't cheap, but at the same time, what were they there? 3 days or 4 days off and on at different stages?
Yeah, like they were on and off for like 4 days, and that wasn't like full days. That was like 3 hours here, 4 hours there.
Because you guys did some of it yourself, right? They kind of got you started, and then you guys had to continue on a little bit, right?
Yeah, they got mostly everything done.
Okay.
Like literally like 90-95% of everything that they were able to do. The rest was just simply stuff that we didn't know what to do with at that point.
Right. Well, and also the fact is that you guys, I mean, you homeschool your kids, right? And I know, and Karen's, her up to her eyeballs just taking care of the kids, right? And for some, when the kids are at school, they have time to do it, or they send them off to grandma's or something like that. But and you're running a full-time business out of the house and outside of the house, right? So
yeah,
the problem is trying to find the time to do it, let alone everybody understands it, a lot of people, but very few people really have the time, right? Because if you put 4 days into it with a pro and did some other things, you're likely talking, 48 hours of time involved to a certain degree, right? Well, 10, 12-hour days, at least 40 hours likely went into just to the first level of decluttering, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You're just trying to get, you're not just moving a home, you're moving 4 lives.
Right.
However many people you've got in the house, each one's a life. You're moving 4 lives. That's what we had to move. So,
well, and you collect a lot of stuff, right? As a kid,
yeah,
kids, right? They go through all these stages, and part of it is just trying to decide, what do I hold on to, right? Because you and I can still wear clothes, potentially still wear clothes from 3 or 4 years ago. Some people tell us that our wardrobe is still in the 80s, but kids can't do that, right? And so the idea is that, as they move out of their ages and move forward, I mean, you end up with all of this kid stuff as well, right? And so it's always an issue. Do you hold on to it? Do you move it forward? So it's an emotional grind as well, figuring what to move, I'm sure.
Yeah, spending time with the kids, trying to figure out what they want to keep, what they want to donate, but it actually went better than we thought. Like there's a lot of stuff that got donated, which was really good. And that's the benefit of being into LOL dolls now, because that's what everything is. So if it's not an LOL, it's a lot easier to negotiate.
Well, and then you kind of move forward, and lots of times I bring in a stager, and I know we did a little bit here in this place, but stager kind of does 2 things. I know you needed somebody that really help you actually do the work. A lot of the stagers don't actually do a really great job of decluttering and actually physically do it. They'll give you a laundry list of what they'd like to see moved out, but in this case, a decluttering expert actually will come in and do it, and that's what they specialize in. But I call them essentially, a get rid of your shit psychologist, right? Because a lot of people, hold on to it. Now, in this case, you were in this house for 8 years, but I have some clients that have been in their home for 30, 40, 50 years. And it's such a daunting task to have to not just declutter, but decide that, to really put things away. So the client, the new buyer of your home, can actually, like I'm seeing in your background here, I'm seeing blank walls, and the house is kind of like ready to go, right? And so largely that's the way that people need to see it, so they can imagine themselves in your home. And I had some buyers one time mention to me that they actually almost feel guilty about potentially putting their stuff, up on the wall in a house that's actually been occupied by somebody else. And so if you can imagine, all this emotion going through everybody's head, in terms of yours, in terms of getting them ready to sell the home that you've raised your family in, and also for a buyer to even imagine themselves in your home. And that's the reason why we declutter, and also to kind of see the house. So we've got the house. That's the first stage. We've got this place ready to go. We got it rocking in terms of, you put so many things away, and a lot of cases you moved it out, because I know you likely made how many trips to your storage unit, right? Likely You moved a lot
We
of
did.
stuff.
We moved like 5 different things. With a sprint van, like 5 trips, and that was just a lot. Like we filled up a 200 square foot storage container filled of just stuff that you think you use, but apparently you don't. So, and
How
so
much?
now that we're moved into the new place, a lot of that hasn't found its way back yet. So, we're looking at probably a yard sale or something.
So you could write a book just on that, right? In terms of cleaning up your life, physically and emotionally, right? In terms of
Hmm.
what doesn't make it back. So now in some cases you're living a little lighter, I guess, in the new home, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
We're taking a look at what's the essentials and what do you really need, and you want the space to look and feel a certain way. Like after we had our house staged, first thing we said is, why didn't our house always look like this? we, it should have been like this for like the last 8 years. That would have been great to go, been living in that kind of beauty and decor and all the stuff that we did.
and
But
you
that's
guys
it's funny.
and you guys did a lot. I've had so many people tell me maybe we should just take it off the market. We really, really like this house now, right? In terms of the so I mean maybe that's a message to everybody out there that in terms of depersonalizing and decluttering your house should be something maybe we do every couple years. Um, and just live and stay in our house, and you'll appreciate it even more. So step number one, getting it out of the house, let your potential buyer see the house, and also make room for any other things that we might want to do. And that's sort of the next step is, and I call it freshen up the house, right? Because now that you can see the house, you can see the house for what it is. And so kind of maybe take us through that. You've pulled all this stuff back, you boxed it all up, and now it's like, what's the state of our house?
Okay, so at this point, the house is a lot more empty than it was before. And so what we did is we got a reputable contractor, like the referral through you, and we had them do a walkthrough, just talked about things that we needed to have done just to kind of, clean up any bumps and nicks and repaint the house and all of that stuff. And such reasonably priced, like to get just a new coat of paint made the place look completely, because our colors were feng shui before, a little red and gold. That's not gonna be everybody's preference. We went back to neutral colors, so to have the place repainted was really great. They also went through, fixed up, a few things that were not working, nothing major.
Right.
But then after everything was painted and everything was done, they came back again a couple of days ago to do one last walkthrough to make sure that there was nothing, and they did that, and it was great. So everything just by that point, it's really objective. Like you can just take a step back and say, okay, yeah, that paint looks good, and all of those bumps and nicks are now fixed, and everything's working the way that it's supposed to be. And that adds so much value, I think, to the home. Because when people come in, it's turnkey. If they want to repaint, they can. But if you just want to move your furniture in here now, you're good to go. Everything works.
Right. Well, that's what I tell, when I'm out with buyers, I have this little, I guess this little saying that when you're putting your house on the market, what I want to see, if I'm out with a buyer and I'm showing a house and I want to hear certain things and certain, what are they saying about this particular house and different things like this. But I often say that I want to hear a lot more ahs than oohs. And what I mean by that is that when I'm taking somebody, through the house and they're buyers and you come into the next house, I want to hear them go, oh man, I really love this kitchen, or I love how bright it is, as opposed to, ooh, it's really dark. And it sounds funny to say that, but buyers are have this checklist, and our job is, I guess, as a real estate agent, is to kind of help our sellers, maximize the most they can possibly get for these houses. And nowadays we're expecting buyers to spend really, I guess, top of market at this point in time. It's very much a seller's market. We've all heard that, but the question just is, how much more we can get for these houses. And if buyers are going all in, they're not going to go all in if they think the home needs a lot of work, or if they're not somehow emotionally connected to the house that they're buying.
Correct. And a house that looks good and feels good, the emotional connection is there for people to want to spend more. Because
Right.
when you know you don't have to really do anything, if you can just move in and you want to feel good in a space, that's how I am. Like I don't want to have to do a lot of work once I get there.
Well, you're
And I
too
think
busy, right? You're out there making
yeah,
the money to pay for the damn thing, right?
right. So that's the thing, is that you don't want to spend time like when you're not working doing a different kind of work. You really want to actually have some downtime. So getting all of that done, was really good. Like just in terms of the psychology of it, in terms of people walking through. Like when we had the open house, it was kind of last minute, and still we had like over 20 groups of people through, and everyone's loving the place. And it's not a question of whether or not they're going to make an offer. It's like, oh, I want to get approved for financing because they didn't have their ducks in a row.
Right.
And of course, we're not waiting for, people to get their financing. It's who's coming through with the best offer. And for a townhouse in Ottawa, like the return on our investment for all of our, staging and the painting and everything and decluttering, this return on the investment was crazy for what we spent and what we got back.
Well, essentially, you almost did in your case, and not every client does everything that you have done or may not have had. Depending if you don't clutter as much and things like this. And I have some military clients every once in a while, and they sell every 3 or 4 years, and they're almost the day they walk into the home, almost preparing for the next time they sell. Not everybody does that, but because you live in the house too, right? But But still, the ROI on doing this little bit of work, it's almost, I call it flip light. You're walking in and you're imagining you're buying this house as an investment property. You're emotionally disconnected from it, and you're saying, what do I got to do to maximize my return on this? And so the idea is if you put in $1, you better damn well get 2, right? In terms of this level of work. If you're putting in $1 and only getting back 20 cents, that's a big problem. These little what I call freshening components and paint. Listen, guys, paint is the number one, especially if you're paying $10,000 for a paint job. I admit you're not going to see good ROI in that. But part of the problem of freshening, I'll mention one problem that some people run into, is that they don't find the right contractor to help them freshen. And yet, Pete mentioned that I found a referral, but it was somebody I've been working with, and I have 2 or 3 pros on the contractor side that are a little bit different. They're wired a little differently in that these guys understand this process of getting a home on the market. I went to the renovation show on the weekend at the EY Center, and I met out there trying to meet a lot of other pros that could help in this process. But most of them they say they could help, but most of them really don't get it because ideally they're smart. They want to do less work, not more. And so what they do is they quote 3 or 4 high quotes for work and want to get 1 or 2 jobs a month. And it's finding the right contractor that in fact has built his business or their business on volume and not on trying to, do one job and go fishing for the rest of the month. And so, or they do extremely high-end stuff. They want $50,000, $60,000, $80,000 basements, and I get that. There's a huge market for that level of work. But when you're putting your home, you're planning to sell your house. It's literally coming in and finding all sorts of unique ways to help keep the budget low so the ROI is there. And
yeah, you're looking for like a contractor or somebody who understands that we're looking to increase equity, not to spend $10,000 to make 10,001.
And I've seen so many guys. I see so many clients, and I want to drive this home that they end up spending their equity. By the time they bring me in, they said, well, they overspend and with the market. In some cases, they put in brand new kitchens and they've finished all sorts of things, and they've spent $30,000, $40,000 because they've watched some sort of flip show on television. And unfortunately, I say, that $25,000 kitchen you put in, even if the older one was original and didn't look that great, I likely can't get you that. There's a huge disappointment because I likely can't get them that $30K back.
Yeah, and if you are thinking about doing home improvements for the purpose of selling your home, you do need to speak with your realtor or real estate professional. Like, you emotionally think this is going to look great, but people are going to appreciate that value. They're not.
Right.
So the premise is that don't spend a lot of money if you're going to sell. Talk with the realtor, like get professional advice. Don't make an emotional decision about what you think is going to work.
Right. And that's it. And DIY. I mean, I know you are so busy. Some clients obviously have more time and more capability to come in and possibly get I've seen lots of clients, get their family together and they paint and they do a lot of this work themselves. So you don't necessarily always have to reach out. In this case, you're a working pro and time is money, right? So and your wife and kids and everything. So as long as we could keep it on budget, the return is substantial at the end. Cool. So we did things like we painted. I know you did some improvements to the kitchen. You fixed up, anything that was really broken around the house. It's something we want to address. Drywall cracks in the tape, because generally painting is one of those things that cover up a lot of sins, right? A lot of living.
Then you had the furnace professionally served. The fridge is always run well.
Right.
So just making everything look more good.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And I have clients that you find all sorts of areas to, I guess, find savings. That's some cases they've, gone to Kijiji and bought 3 or 4, brand new appliances or obviously used appliances and I had a client just the other day, I think buy all new appliances for $800 off of Kijiji, right? And then they were stainless steel, not new, obviously new to them, but they were 2 or 3 years old. And the ROI, and that's tremendous, right? Cool. So we've gone through, we've freshened this house, we lightened it up, obviously with new paint, possibly some new lighting, and then we brought in a great cleaner, right? Deep cleaned this place.
Yeah. Did a deep clean, and that took like the bulk of the day, but very effective, very efficient, and after all of the construction work had been done and after everything had been done, it just made everything look great. Everything was shining the way it's supposed to.
Right. And then it's good for you, because what I tell a lot of clients is that they gotta, in some cases, the packing up, you're gonna pack the house up to move into the new house anyways, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So getting that all done, it just made everything pretty effective. So we're doing that final move, everything was easy. Everything had been packed up. The place was relatively pretty clean, so it was good.
Right. How's it living in a stage house? And it wasn't that long, because I think we got your place sold in 2 or 3 days, right? By the time
we listed late on a Saturday evening. By the time we got onto MLS, there was an open house Sunday, which mostly it was your signage that people saw, and then by Monday we had an offer. So
right. Bang on.
Yeah.
So some clients would say that, kind of maybe that was too quick. I've literally had that observation back. This is just, obviously it's my opinion, I'm the realtor, but I think it had a lot to do with everything that you guys did to that home. It just created so much conviction for that house. Any doubt off, and buyers came flocking.
I think with the purchase price, we bought this house like going almost 8 years ago. The process began 8 years ago, buying this house. From that time until then, if we had kept it on the market longer and entertained more offers, I wouldn't have been any more happy. Like, the thing is that for what we were asking and what we got, we were extremely happy. There was one whole counter offer throughout the entire process, and the buyer was happy. We were happy. Yeah, I mean, people try to create a bidding war sometimes, or you're trying to create multiple offers. And if you can get it, that's great. But if you've got a great offer on the table, don't drag out something that's going to take, that could be done in 2 or 3 days. Making it take 2 months is not better for anybody.
Well, in your case, it was different.
Stress staged.
It's huge stressful. I have, when a house sits on the market a long time and you've had, something like, 50 showings on your house, and especially with young kids, and you've got to, one thing, the house is ready to rock, but there's always this extra hour or two that you take to get the house ready to rock that day, right? Because kids in living can mess it up pretty quickly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think too, like people, if they're trying to get a better offer, I mean, of course, there's going to be some negotiation, but you have to know what you bought it for, what the equity has been increased, and what are you really thinking about the risks of trying to keep it out there longer than what you need to, hoping that you might get an extra $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, whatever the number is that you've got to really know kind of where you are in your ask and how realistic that is. And for a townhouse in the area that we're in, we got significant above market from when we bought it.
Well, I think we listed above market. That's what we wanted to do, right? So the idea was really to list it above market and let the house show for itself. All that work came to fruition, right? Because that allowed us, I think, a lot higher, than market price, and turned around. Now, in your case, you needed to get that house nailed down so you guys could move forward to buy the next house, right? So, I mean,
yeah, we were doing two things at the same time. We were selling this house. We were trying to buy another house. So literally, by the time this house sold, we didn't have another house. So that was the second. That was the second part of this, was moving and finding the right house and getting all the mortgage stuff together, and pulling off two miracles in 60 days.
well,
For luck.
and we know there's this is a super tight market. It's one thing to sell because you're in control and you sell, but you're not in control when you go to buy. There's a lot of houses out there that even the house that you bought, I know that it was a multiple offer type situation, and you got to think about that. If there's 10 people going in and offering on a house, that means one of those groups getting the house, the other 9 isn't. And so the question is, what was in the mind? I know in our case, it was sort of a planned operation. I knew that if you guys could get to the point where you had a solid offer on your house, you would be in a much better position to go, very strongly in on the house that you were buying. Otherwise, we could have been easily one of those 9, right? And
I think that through all the work that we did to get it to the point when it did sell, is that we got top dollar for it, and just having the extra equity, having that extra money, made us the ability to have a stronger offer. And even then, we didn't outbid the top offer, but I think it's just the ethic that we brought to it, of just vision that we had for the property and what we can do with it, and a lot of other things. But if we'd cut corners on this house and not staging and not doing repairs and not doing the stuff that we had done, we would not have been in the same bracket of what we had sold at. We would have been significantly lower, and it was just everything just worked out.
Cool. Well, you know what? I think we kind of killed this to death. Maybe some last words to somebody that's thinking of getting their house on the market. Maybe talk to them a little bit about, the prep work and kind of what's involved in the outcome. What would you say to somebody that's just out there now watching this video and maybe thinking of selling? What should they do? How much conviction should they have in this process?
My first piece people is, I don't have anything, and you're paying a fee. And I'm a very big proponent that you get what you pay for. And I think not having a professional realtor representing you in your purchase or in your sale of your home, you could be losing thousands of dollars, or you could be emotionally putting your house out there at a number that's not realistic. So you need to have that gut check of just having someone giving you that reality, saying, okay, that might be what you want. This is not what the numbers are saying, and this is not what the market is saying. So yeah, you have to have a professional realtor, and having you, Brian, has been great in the sale of this house and the purchase. So even though it's your show, I am going to still plug you. Is that
and I'm not looking for a plug. It's not what this is all about. I mean, if business comes to me through education and truly getting down and deep and helping, that's always been my mantra. Everybody wants easy business, but the job of realtor is obviously to maximize and pay for ourselves. I mean, we do get paid well in transaction. I give you that, but the idea is to try to find ways and put things in front of our clients to pay for ourselves in the process, or it's not worth it. If we can't pay for ourselves, then by all means, then the market should, evolve beyond us, right?
Absolutely.
And that's kind of part of the process.
And
I don't know if I'm losing you here now, Pete, or not. Maybe bandwidth wise is getting a little low. I see your pretty face. Okay,
I can. There we go.
There you go. You're back.
Yeah. So the other thing I recommend is, if you're going to do home improvements, make sure to check with your realtor, real estate professional, that they're actually going to increase value to your home. You don't want to just give away equity for no reason. So please don't do that. Third thing, if you're going to sell your home, really take time to plan. You have to plan weekly about organizing and decluttering and all of those things. If a lot of it you can do yourself, but you've got to plan it out. You don't want to leave things to the last minute because it will show. The other thing that I would really recommend too is that when you're doing a walkthrough of your own home, don't see yourself in it. Come into it with the eyes of somebody who potentially wants to buy it. And like, what are you seeing? How does it look? How does it feel to you? And if it's feeling like that point, like it's almost like it could be new to you, you're there. Because you don't want to see what you normally see or feel what you normally feel. It's like, I'm now looking at this like a buyer. What could I change or what could I clean up a little bit better? Those things are really important. So those are the things that I would definitely recommend. And I would definitely recommend a stager, because what people look for, there were so many design shows now on HGTV and all of these things, and you can have something looking clean, but it has to be beyond that. It has to look like this is the home that I want, or I'm showing you an idea of a life that you could have, or a space that you could be living in, something that's going to become your home. So that emotional connection that is kind of generic but very open is really important for people. So when I saw the house staged, it was like, wow, we should have done this when we moved in. So I think that's really important too, because people are not just looking for, 4 walls and a roof. They want to be able to see themselves in the house. They want to be able to feel themselves. And more importantly, when they feel themselves, how do they want to feel? They want to feel good. They want to feel like, this is my home. This needs to be my home.
100%. I mean, it's so hard, and it's funny. You think that's natural, and that everybody should think that way. But I'm not calling out anybody, anything like this. But there's a mortgage pro that I use once in a while, and she called me up a few weeks ago, and she said that her mom's. I guess mom was, in this case, it's more like an estate sale, and mom was moving out and maybe moving to the home. And she was saying, do we really have to fix it up? And this person has been in the business for over 20 years. And she said, we really have no time. We prefer just to sell it as is. And I think, okay, fine. I looked in it. It needed a lot of work. And her mindset was that, no, they were dead set on, pretty well almost listing it with grandma's stuff in the house. Like they didn't want to, and part of it's just this daunting task, right? It's a huge process. I mean, I look at the kind of hours, part of what started this whole video is that I heard you produce this fantastic, and I'll link it below if you don't mind, Pete, this video that you produced for your own, friends, family, and customers yesterday. And part of it was just, you talked a lot about, I guess, the process, and I'm going through this, but one of the things that I heard you say is that you said, sorry, guys, I haven't been on social media for a while, literally from sort of the beginning of December till now, I've been doing this. and so not everybody has, 2 months, of time to put into that. And I don't think you do either, right? You just found the time. Clearly a collective effort out of all 4 of you guys, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And so it always amazes me that what you'd think, and it comes up a lot that people would prefer just to do it. But unfortunately, what happens when they do that is that they're just so disappointed. So part of it is to try to find that emotional connection with that client and get them to the place where you guys were. And that's what this video is all about. Hopefully hearing it from somebody other than, just the agent, they could kind of see it in your eyes and maybe take that gamble and put the effort in, or hire someone to do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. If you can get yourself out of the way or get yourself thinking differently about your space, it's going to be a better investment. And if you're looking at it as an investment, I mean, it is. And you want a return on that investment. So you should expect to spend or invest some money, but that money's going to come back to you if you do it and doing the right things.
Well, that's just it. This is an investment, and you have to see it that way. I mean, you can, and every effort. I mean, that's what flip guys do, right? I have lots of guys that are looking for these houses in the roughest possible condition in a great marketplace, and they're going to do it. They're going to make those big uplift changes. And a lot of it is the same thing that you've done. You've kind of flipped your house light in a light way and took it to a stage that you had then multiple buyers wanting it. And that's you can't get a better situation than that.
Mhm.
So the idea really is to think about flipping your own house to a certain degree, right? If you had to walk in and buy it. Anyways, I think we kind of drove this point home. So what's next for you guys? You're moved in now. The house closes tomorrow. You're putting this chapter of your life behind you guys and kind of moving forward, right?
Yeah, well, we literally bought the farm, so that's a good thing. So it's just going to be basically waiting for the warmer weather. I mean, we're unboxing stuff now, getting stuff organized inside of the house, which is great. Then we'll be looking at the landscaping coming in the spring, trying to see what to keep and what to change. And
What's big moves for you because you had a town with a condo town with limited space, and now you've bought acreage, right? So everybody, Pete's moving to the country. So
I moved to the country. So I went from a townhouse in Nepean, and I now have a 19-acre farm out in Carp, and I've got outbuildings like a barn and
so Pete's become the gentle, and his family become the gentleman farmer now, everybody. So we can expect the hat on you and corn, maybe corn. I'm not sure. Hard to say. Anyways, well, listen, thanks for doing this, Pete. I really appreciate it. I'll set some links below in this video after we get off to you and not only your business, because I know you're also in the people business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Pete's a pretty interesting guy. I've been working with him, I guess, off and on as a client. I mean, I don't know. I helped you buy that last house about 8 or 9 years ago, and now we've kind of moved forward. And I've seen watching you guys and your family kind of evolve to what you've not only built your business and built your practice working as well. So I can put some links to Pete below if you guys are interested. Feel free to, maybe do some research on him and some of the types of things that he does. And we'll talk to everybody later. Thanks, Pete, for doing this.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thanks.
Okay, man. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.